Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're giving this a little bit to get going, I guess. We're just kind of signing in. Welcome. Happy New Year. My name is Misty West. Please feel free to sign into the comment box. Tell us hi. Tell us that you're here. Today's presentation will be recorded, so if you'd like to share it or go back and view it again, please check out our Conservation Nebraska YouTube page. Today, we hope to present a few tips that will help you save some money in the new year by helping you make conservation connections in your everyday life. My name is Misty West. I'm an AmeriCorps member with Conservation Nebraska Common Ground Program. Our intention is to engage and educate the community to connect them with local experts to address state and local conservation topics. Today, we have Steve Walker from Nebraska Public Power District's Energy Efficiency Team. He will be joining us to tell us about how Nebraska Public Power District has services available to help educate and inspire us to change parts of our lifestyle at home or work to save money and our resources. All right, please be informed that not all cities are served by Nebraska Public Power in Nebraska. So if your city is not served by these programs, please look up your local provider, such as OPPD, to see what kinds of discounts and rebates are available to you through them. All right, so give me a second here to start sharing my screen real quick. All right. So with that, I'm going to welcome Steve. Hi, Steve.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, and I really look forward to your presentation. Give me 1 second here to get it to go full screen.
Okay.
And I guess just jump in whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, we'll just get started then, I guess. And again, good afternoon. I'm Steve Walker at the Nebraska Public Power District. I'm an energy efficiency consultant for the Nebraska Public Power District. And my area of focus is basically residential, and have performed residential audits for well over 15 years now. And I hope that I can share some of the things that I have found in that 15 years and maybe give you a little bit of insight to what things to look at your home for to help save energy. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I think it's always important to tell a little bit about the organization I work for and share our vision and mission statement. Our vision is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life for Nebraskans now and in the future. And our mission statement is to safely generate and deliver reliable, low-cost, sustainable energy and provide outstanding customer service. To the next slide, please. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of the communities that we serve at the retail level. In the Scottsbluff area, we serve Terrytown, Minnetonka, Melbetta, McGraw, Northport, and a little down the line there, a little further, we serve Broadwater, Oshkosh, Lisco, Llewellyn, Big Springs, and even Ogallala. And then we get to Sutherland, where we have our Big Gerald Gentleman generation station. With all these towns, we also serve other communities at the wholesale level, and they are scattered throughout the state of Nebraska. Plus, we also serve rural public power districts. And it just kind of gives you a shot of, some of the communities there. We serve about 85 counties of the 93 in Nebraska. Okay, next slide. Nebraska is pretty unique in that we are 100% public power. That means all the cities, municipals, rural power districts and such are all public power districts. That is not the case throughout the country. Many are investor owned. And if you look at this chart here, you can see that we're rated in the top 10 of the lowest utilities for electrical use, which is pretty important because if we weren't, public power wouldn't be doing its job for Nebraskans. So we consider that also very important that we have low rates, which means better costs for our customers, which helps them meet their power bills. And also, because we're public power, it means that you have local control of us. You actually get to vote for board of directors that govern our business. And lots of times during the election time, there'll be board members that their terms come to an end and they have to rerun. And that's when you get to vote for the board members that govern our business. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where we're going to get into energy audits. Hopefully, I'll be able to share with you what takes place in an audit and what to look for in some areas of your home to kind of nail down, well, what's really using energy in my home and maybe why, because the why is also very important. That for instance, just leaving a light on can use a lot of energy. A single 60-watt regular light bulb left on 24/7 for 30 days out of a billing period can use $5 to $6 worth of electricity. And lots of times that can be done by having closet lights left on, things of that nature, rooms that we don't get into very often. So keeping track of what's running and how long can be very important. Next slide, please. Making your home more energy efficient. Again, we're going to try to understand how your home uses energy and develop a plan for you. Kind of gives you a play card of what to attack next when you're doing home improvements and things like that. And to actually, once you get that plan put together, to implement those improvements. And key areas are heating and cooling, lighting, building structure, and water heating. Heating and cooling can be very important. It is probably the biggest user, and we'll see that in another slide coming up. But lighting, it's kind of a sleeper because Energy Star did a survey here, several years ago. They found out the average home in America has about 45 light bulbs in it. And that was kind of an eye opener for me. And when I came back home and counted my bulbs, I actually had a few more than that. So lighting can really impact our energy use, especially this time of year with Christmas lighting and the decorating that we do in our homes can really increase that electric usage. And energy efficiency isn't popular. People like to spend money on countertops, and that doesn't impact energy savings whatsoever. Energy efficiency improvements can and actually will save money over time and help pay for some of those extra items that you may want to put in your home. And actually, if you do enough energy efficiency when building a home, you may even qualify for a lower mortgage rate that would help you make your mortgage payment and therefore being a great asset to you. And we got to remember, many things run on electricity in our homes today. We have all sorts of plug-in devices and things that we just take for granted every day. And while they're turned on, they are using energy. So to identify a lot of those type of things is very important. If we could continue on. Next, please. Yeah, there we go. And this is a typical pie chart of the things that really use energy in our home. And again, if you can see the big area there, space heating, it takes 45% of the energy use in our homes. So if we can make an impact on that, we could probably have a good impact on that cost that's going into keeping our homes heated. And space cooling is a smaller portion, mainly because Nebraska is a predominantly heating climate, which means we spend more time of the year in the heating season than we do the cooling system. And that can change as you go further south in the country. Those actually slices of the pie will change. The cooling will become greater and the heating will decrease. Lighting used to be the third biggest user, but now it's got a competitor. It's computers and electronics in the home. And so they're tied neck and neck at 6%. Other things, general things that you probably, just rely on every day, from clocks to radios, maybe. We call them sometimes phantom loads because they can be small, could be chargers for different things. Cooking is 4%. Refrigeration, your refrigerators and computers are 4%. And wet cleaning, that could probably be the laundry. So anyhow, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, what we offer for our customers, and this is really a unique tool that we have, and it's found at nppd.com, our website. It's located under the Save Money tab, and it may not pop up complete. You got to kind of dig down into it. You hit the Save Money, and then you click on Tools and Resources, and then it'll open up a tab where you can complete a home energy audit. And it has two methods that you can go through. One is a very simplified method that mainly gives you pictures of what it's talking about, and it will do a lot of the calculations behind the scene for you. Or you can go into what's called the advanced home, and it'll ask you more questions about your home as you go from tab to tab in it, which will give you a better analysis for your home when it's done. And you can then hit analyze or complete, and it will give you a summary and give you suggestions of what you might choose to improve in your home. And the beauty about this is you can go back in and actually make the changes on your home from the information and do another analysis on it and see the changes of what benefits would have. Like maybe if you change the insulation level in your attic, or you improve the windows, how much energy might be saved. So it's a pretty powerful tool. And this is something that we ask customers to do when they call in to talk about their energy use. And it's required even before we might even come out on site and maybe do a walkthrough audit for your home. Again, these are all free or no charge services through NPPD and our retail and wholesale customers. Next slide, please. When I do an energy audit for a customer, and again, this is after they have completed the online computer assessment, one of the things that I like to look at is a billing history. There are some things that can be found from the billing history just by laying it out like in a spreadsheet that I have here. And what I like to do is first take a look at what's called the base load for the home on a certain month. And that's usually the month that has the least heating and cooling and reflects the normal use of the house for refrigeration, lights, television, things of that nature, your water heating. And that can tell us, well, Now that can be high if, and this is my qualifiers, home that's heated with natural gas, I like to see that around 800 to 1,000 kilowatt hours. But if you look on this billing history, the base bill is 4,152, which is way higher. And what that is telling me that we've got a lot of things happening in the home, plug-in loads, such things of that. This could even be a home with a hot tub, maybe multiple freezers, but it's all toward the plug-in side loads or the fixed loads, like maybe even water heating. It could have a couple of water heaters instead of just one. And then what I like to do is take that base bill and subtract it out of the heating cooling months. And if you see the 4 months they're highlighted in yellow, that's cooling. And you can see there's 1 month there, August, that really sticks out. And that was a month most likely that had a lot of cooling, what we call cooling degree days, which is just basically the amount of time over 65 degrees that was spent that month. And a lot of time was spent in that month to cool the home. And you can see how that makes a difference through the rest of the summer months there. And then we look at the heating. And again, we have what we call heating degree days, and that's the amount of time under 65 degrees. And you can tell that, as we start ramping into the colder months, the billing history increases. And then my next question is to find out what kind of heating system or cooling system they have, and to determine whether or not that's appropriate for that kind of system, or is there an opportunity to make suggestions for an improvement. And other things can go along with that, and I might touch on a couple of those as we continue in the slide decks. But there is a lot to be gained from just looking over your billing history. And again, the first thing I like to look at is the base month bill. And I should mention that an all electric home, I like to see that use on a base month to be somewhere between 1,200 kilowatt hours and 1,500 kilowatt hours. That's where a lot of the audits that I do usually fall in, if the base load is in line. Next slide, please. Okay, the next thing I do when I get to a customer's home, and this can be easily done by our customers by themselves, is to visually inspect the home. And the first slide that's off to my left, and with the arrow directed to it, you can actually see a spot of sunlight through a door. That just means that the door is not sealed tight and is letting air through it, and can be a source of major air movement and could really make a difference in the heating cooling costs. So heating cooling costs aren't always associated with the heating cooling system. It can be what we call the building envelope. And that means the walls, the roof, the basement or crawl space, the doors, windows, and all of that comes into play. And that just those are items that can make our heating cooling system work harder and use more energy. And then the right type of heating cooling systems. The middle picture there is a window air conditioner, and it will let a lot of outside energy in through that unit. It doesn't have much in the way of restriction from air movement. And even if it's running, it can bring outside air in and compete with the its ability to cool the inside part of that room. Plus, a lot of times they're not sealed tightly. So the type of heating system and cooling system can make a difference. To the other air part there, that's actually a central heating cooling system. And there's a couple of things wrong there. For one, the filter is sticking out of the filter compartment. If that's happening, it is letting air bypass that filter and get air up into the coils, which can bring dust and dirt into the coils and plug it. That actually needs to be closed and sealed. And if it isn't, that that will allow those coils to get dirty really fast and increase the energy usage of the system. The other thing I like to point out is that the filter needs to be changed regularly. If it's just a standard filter, they say, the industry says it should be changed about once a month. Now, most filters, unless you're in a really dusty environment, like a rural setting, sometimes can cause more dust. You may want to change it uh, several weeks, depending on how much the dust is accumulating, to within a couple of months, just to keep that filter clean, because a dirty filter does make that unit work harder and use more energy. Next slide, please. Okay, here's some other areas. And there's two pictures there of a very low insulated attic. And that can just basically let the temperature in the attic come down through basically the roof. It's conduction. It just makes the ceiling cold or hot, depending on which season you're in. And that's why we need to keep our attics well insulated. That helps keep the heat out of the rooms in the summertime and the cool out during the wintertime. Plus, all penetrations for wires and everything actually should be caulked and sealed before they come through the ceiling or the drywall. That keeps air from coming in as well. And this basement picture is an uninsulated basement wall. It's kind of a gloomy looking picture, but it's just basically uninsulated and is a source of heat loss. Not so much cooling for the summer, but it is a source of heat loss. What we call crawl spaces, rim joists in a home can lose up to 30% of the home's energy. It's not necessarily thought that it could lose that much energy, but studies have shown that it does. And that's a good reason to insulate rim joists and crawl spaces and basement walls. Next slide, please. Okay, here are some energy saving things that I have found on audits, and this was all at one location. They had a lot of things going on. A flag light was on 24/7, and that wasn't a 60-watt bulb. That was like a 125-watt flood. The bug lights, it wasn't zapping many bugs, and there was basically two of them there, and was on 24/7. So during the day, if it wasn't swatting bugs, it could have been shut off. It had a 20 kW electric furnace, which is a lot of load. But the electric furnace uses a lot of energy, and there are higher efficient heating systems today called heat pumps, both air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps, that use a lot less energy to do the same job. And so just upgrading the heating system for this home could save a lot of energy. There was a 50-gallon electric water heater in this house that had plumbing issues that restricted flow of water and things. And the pipes weren't insulated, which meant the heat was coming off the top of the water heater, things like that. 15 4-foot T12 fluorescent lights. That's a fair high number for a residential for using fluorescents, but today, and at that time when I did this audit, the recommendation was to install LEDs. LED lights will use quite a bit less energy, and we'll cover that a little more in another slide. There was a 7 horsepower air conditioner in a shop building that was plugged in and would cycle on and off throughout the day. And if it wasn't being used, it could have been turned off and it would have saved some energy. And a radio was left on 24/7 in the shop. So it added to the electric use. Next slide, please. Okay, building structure improvements, getting back to what I was talking about, the building envelope. It really makes a lot of sense to spend some time looking at the walls and ceilings, the attic insulation, and improvements in there do save energy. The minimum insulation level now, starting last year, the state of Nebraska adopted the 2018 building codes. We hadn't adopted a new building codes. Oh gosh, we were on the 2009 building code. And so when that changed, that level went from R38 to R49, which is approximately 6 inches. We used to say around 12 inches. So there's more opportunity to insulate attics. You might want to think about maybe to increase the insulation in your attic just a little bit more. Caulking around windows and doors on the outside can really reduce some of those drafts that come in. Caulking tends to crack and open up over time, and it's a very cost-effective improvement. That's usually a low-cost suggestion. Another low-cost suggestion is putting outlet gaskets and switch plate gaskets behind the outlet plate and switch plate. It can be easily done. You just turn the power off, take the plate off, put these gaskets behind it, and put the plate back on, and you've got a nice seal around your outlet, which can stop drafts on the walls that face the outside of your home. And sealing doors, you might want to take a look at the weather stripping around the door to make sure it's actually making contact with the door, that there isn't a gap between the door and the seal, and you may want to replace that. Threshold gaskets and door sweeps and things like that. All those type of things on doors tend to wear out fairly fast. In a couple of years, the gaskets could not be doing their job. And another thing that might be an improvement for your home, ductwork. To seal and insulate ductwork, especially insulated if it goes through an unconditioned space, such as an attic or an unconditioned basement or crawl space. And to seal the duct, there are joints where the ducts come together and they need to be either taped. And again, duct tape is not always for ducts. There's the gray duct tape that will disintegrate really fast. You have to get a well-approved duct tape, and it usually has a shiny surface on it like a foil back to it that goes around those joints that you can use, or you can use a mastic, which is like a paint on sealant that can go around the gaps and things in the ductwork. It is an area of actually high energy loss. Many ducts that I have tested have well been over 400 CFM, cubic feet of minute, of air leakage, and 400 cubic feet of air leakage equates to about 1 ton of either air conditioning or heating. And so that's just a lot of wasted energy just dumping out in our home that's not getting to our room. So the ductwork is very important. Next slide, please. Okay, lighting. LEDs are here and they're coming down in price every day, and they use a lot less energy and they last up to 3 times longer or even more depending on the quality of bulb you buy. They work better in dimming applications than the old CFLs did, and they contain no mercury. Replacing the 15 inefficient bulbs can save your house over $50 a year. And that just is a testament to how efficient they really are. Replacing with Energy Star qualified bulbs, it just means you're getting a good buy for your money. They have been tested and certified to do what it says on the package. And another thing you might consider are occupancy sensors for the areas with intermittent use, where you go in, turn the light on, then you walk out and you might forget to turn the light out. It might be something to consider. It's just another way to save energy. Next slide, please. Water heating. The big thing here is watch the temperature setting on your water heater. I have been into homes that have tested, that I've tested water temperature on, and I've measured for over 140 up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And the factory or industry standard is 120 degrees Fahrenheit to set your temperature at. That's good for safety and energy efficiency. Anything higher than that just really makes your water heater work hard. And if your water heater isn't providing enough hot water at that temperature, it may be undersized or it may not be working properly, and you may need to get a professional to come in and check that system out. And it's suggested that you insulate the first 6 feet of the hot water pipe and the cold water pipe because it can backflow a little bit on the temperature, and that hot cold water pipe can actually turn warm, which wastes heat coming out of that hot water tank. There is a recommendation to drain a quart of water out of your water heater every 3 months to remove sediment, but I've had people have issues with that in that those valves sometimes will start leaking. So maybe not every 3 months, maybe once a year. And if it's a plastic valve, I might even recommend not even doing it if it's not a brass valve. Brass valves tend to hold up better. Upgrade to a heat pump water heater. This is relatively new technology. The heat pump thing sits on top of the water heater and really saves a lot of electricity. It basically works through the refrigeration cycle to heat the water in the tank, and is proven to save, well, in this case here, 2,600 kilowatt hours or $271 annually. And they have been found to be more efficient than gas water heaters now. New technology, just really coming into the market. And you might want to buy energy efficient, water saving, Energy Star dishwashers, clothes washers for hot water use. It really does. The Energy Star appliances do save energy and water. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a little cartoon that we put in here about temperature setting on your heating cooling system. And of course, this one is they're getting chewed out for setting a thermostat clear down to 58 degrees to be comfortable. Couple things about, or at least one thing about this slide is turning your thermostat way down to extreme temperatures to get the house cooler does not make it cool off any faster. And the other thing that happens is we might forget to turn the thermostat back to its normal setting, which means that the unit's just going to sit there and try to maintain that set point, which uses a lot of energy. And might mention on that slide too, well, and we can keep it on this. Go ahead, next. We'll go to the next slide because this is still thermostats. If you have a heat pump in your home, you may not want to move your thermostat more than 2 degrees, because if you move it more to 2 degrees in the heating season, it will call on electric resistive strips, which is a more expensive way of heating your home and will increase your energy use. But set your thermostat in the wintertime as high as possible to be, excuse me, I got it backwards. Set your thermostat as high as possible in the summer to where you can be comfortable, and as low as possible in the winter and to be comfortable. And the suggested thermostat settings are 78 in summer and 70 in the winter. And if you can, use a programmable thermostat and set a daily program to what you'd like your temperatures to be during the day and evening. And you can use a setback schedule too, and that will save you up to 10 to 15% on your energy costs. Some setback schedules really do work. During the summer months, adjust the temperature by 1 degree increments and find out where that level is. Don't adjust it with large swings. And during the winter months, again, 1 degree at a time, and find that comfortable spot. And it can translate into energy savings as well. Next slide, please. cooling system maintenance. And this also goes for a heating system. But as you'll see later on, we do have an incentive for the cooling system tune-up, which includes air conditioners and heat pumps. And we'll talk about that a couple more slides down. But it's important to keep those coils clean and make sure they're charged properly and to make sure any filters in the system are clean. And so it's important maybe to even have a technician come out, and we suggest once every 3 years, but some people choose to have it done every year, to have a technician come out and go through and just make sure everything's working. Again, if you go back to that pie chart, it's 45% of your energy, and it really does make an impact to keep those units operating properly, the impact on your energy bill. And there's one thing we like to call attention to. There's an evergreen cover that comes up for sale about every year when it comes into the air conditioning season. And they like to sell these things to cover the air conditioner. Well, those things block the air going around the unit and can really increase the energy use because it can't get the air to move around the unit that it needs to make those temperature changes it needs to make through the airflow through the unit. So very important. Don't try to beautify it. Make sure that your outside unit is free and open and can circulate air around it. Okay. When to replace windows. And this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, in that window salesmen will try to sell you windows because it will save energy. And they really over exaggerate the energy savings that you can get by window changes. There are times to change windows. And some of those times are if you're feeling a lot of air around the window, even when it's closed. But again, there's another part of that window that you don't get to see. And behind the molding around the windows, there is a wood framing that is holding that window into place. And it may or may not have insulation around it to stop the air leaks that would come from the outside. And I have found this to be a case in many older homes. And the other thing is sometimes they will try to stuff fiberglass insulation into the gaps and the cracks in that framing. And when fiberglass is compressed or pushed in, it just becomes a filter. It still lets air through it. The proper insulating medium is actually what we call low expanding window and door foam that you can spray in the cracks. And it's not the great stuff that is high expanding. So the low expanding window and door foam won't make your window go out of square or make it hard to open and close. And that will seal the leaks. And again, it can be a struggle to pull a molding off to check that, but sometimes that's all it needs to be done instead of replacing windows. The other time to replace windows is if the seals are wet on the inside after a rain. That just means it's really leaking bad, or the windows are about ready to fall out of its pane. It's can even be loose, or there may be cracks or broken sashes or warped seals. Those are the times to change windows. The deal about windows is they're a very high cost item, and the energy savings will probably be 10% or less of the total energy use in the home, which means the payback is way out there in the number of years. I've yet to see a window change out for the whole home come back under 15 years. So it's something to think about. It's a very costly improvement, but when it's the condition of the windows are extreme, then it probably is warranted. But again, don't expect the savings from energy use to pay for the windows. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where I can come in lots of times to homes and customers that we get to work with. We have what's called a blower door that we can depressurize homes to find out severe problems in homes, where the actual air leakage in the home is coming from. If we're dealing with very high bills, and like say, again, everybody's gone through the online energy audit tool, those things. We do have these services, and again, they're at no charge to our customers, to come out and work with the customer to identify the areas that are causing problems for their home. And a blower door test will tell you how many air exchanges you're having in the home, whether that's high, low, or maybe it's just right. We also have a duct blaster where we can pressurize the duct system of the home to find out if it's leaking a lot. Chances are, if you got an older home, your duct system is really leaking. The sealing of ducts has only come about in the last 5 years that the industry is really starting to do that. So if it's an older system, chances are your duct system is not sealed. We also have infrared cameras that we work in conjunction with the blower door test to find out where the air leaks are happening. And in that lower corner there, you can see the multicolored picture there. And that is of that attic hatch, which is above it, or next to it, I should say. And the dark blue is actually air leaking into the living area from the attic. That just meant that attic hatch was not sealed, and it is a source of infiltration, and there wasn't much insulation on top of that attic hatch as well. So it was an area that needed to be attended to. And we can find many areas in the home by using these tools, and they are quite good. Next slide, please. I'm going to move into some of the incentives that we have for our customers. Again, if you're an MPPD customer or a wholesale customer of MPPD, through another power company, I'm trying to think one of the closest power districts that we have that out that way would be probably Custer Public Power in Custer County. Entities like that do offer our incentives, but just contact your local power provider and they would be able to tell you if they're participating or not. We have residential incentives for high efficiency heat pumps. And if you didn't want the direct incentive, you can actually go through the Nebraska Energy Office, and we have bought their energy loan for buying heating cooling systems down to a lower percentage. I believe it's in the 1.5% to 2.5% range at this time. That might be something you would like to check into. We have a cooling system tune-up. That's where we give you $30 back to have your heating and cooling system tuned up. And again, you need to have either a central air conditioner or a heat pump to have this done. Attic insulation, we offer 15 cents per square foot for attic insulation up to $300. The only qualifier there, it must be an all-electric heated home. We have an incentive for heat pump water heaters, and we also have incentives for the new smart thermostats. Next slide, please. And here are the listing of the heat pumps that we do have incentives for with varying amounts, everything from the ductless mini splits, and we are seeing whole home applications for that, and that gets up to $1,200 for a ductless mini split system. Air source heat pumps, anywhere from $400 to $1,200, depending on the energy ratings of those units. And we have 2 levels of geothermal heat pumps. One is considered more of a standard efficiency, and they have ultra efficiencies that are all variable capacity, which means the compressor varies in load as well as the blower motors. And that even has a $3,300 incentive to go along with it. Plus, there may be tax incentives that it would qualify for till the end of this year. So it might be something you would like to check into. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the attic insulation. Talking about it, we've talked about the cooling system, and these are the amounts for the smart thermostat. Professionally installed primary system, it's $100. Primary system electric heat, $75 if you put it in yourself, and then the fossil fuels are 50 and 25 respectively there. The heat pump water heater and air source is $400. And if it's a geothermal standalone unit, it's $650. Next slide, please. Okay, getting into solar, which is becoming very popular. A lot of people are very interested in that. You'll see solar arrays on a lot of the farmsteads, maybe even some of the homes around your community. Very visible in Scotts Bluff. At our office, we have a small solar farm and another solar farm located out a ways. But again, that's called community solar. That's like at our office. And what happens there is you actually buy shares, and you get, for each share you buy, which costs about $1.08 a share, you get 150 kilowatt hours. And the idea behind that is you get the benefit of not having to put it on your house. You get the benefit of not maintaining the systems. And it takes advantage of economies of scale, which means the power produced from that can be at a lower cost than like on an individual system. And many systems, if you're putting them in yourself, require a pretty good size upfront investment to cover the cost of installation. Things have to be changed for your electrical system, and not only just the mounting of the systems. So if you're thinking about solar and these options come available, right now all the solar shares have sold in Scotts Bluff. So there may be other instances in the future that more of those options will be offered. So if they are, that might be something you want to take advantage of. The other things to think about if you're doing your own home installation is the shading around your home, the trees and other buildings around that may shade the solar. You need to get about 4 to 5 hours of good solar exposure to those panels to make sure that they pay for themselves, do the work that they need to do to provide electricity. And the other thing that's coming about now is storage batteries that will actually store the excess energy use so you can use the solar energy for a longer period of time. Any questions on that? I should have been asking for questions. I've been going along here. Are we getting any comments in the chat room, Misty?
There was one question. It said they asked if any of these services were available in Omaha.
Omaha, that would be under Omaha Public Power District. They have different programs than we do. I'm not real versed on what they offer, but there may be those services or some incentives. They have in that area, there are more home energy raters than we have out in the western part of our state that actually are in business to do that. And so there are individual companies outside of the power district that offer those kinds of services to tell how efficient a home is. And they may have incentives for those, sort of like what we have on our incentives. But it'd be worth checking into at OPPD to check to see what they have available.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
See if there's anything else real quick.
And feel free to ask questions. I should have said that at the beginning.
And I don't see anything else right now, but if we get anything else, I'll just wait for a pause and then tell you the question.
Okay. Next slide, please.
All right.
think I'm still on the same slide. Okay. We're going to turn to electric vehicles. Another thing that's become a lot popular in the last couple years. And part of the hindrance to electric vehicles is the availability of charging stations throughout the state. On the eastern side of the state, there tends to be a lot more charging stations, so it's a lot more convenient to actually be able to charge a vehicle. Out in the western part of the state, there are fewer and fewer, and most people rely on their home charging station to charge their electric vehicles, which means that they may not have the ability, if they drive a fair distance, to be able to recharge their vehicle, which can be a hindrance to the use of an electric vehicle. But the ranges are increasing. I know Nebraska Public Power actually owns a Bolt, and the range on that is almost 250 miles, which means you can get a fair distance away from home and get back safely. And some of the other electric vehicles, the Teslas and things, even may have a larger range. But again, you still have to take in consideration where you're going and are there chargers available. It can be a challenge. Okay, next slide.
All right, there was a question real
Okay.
quick. It's from Bob, and he said, does MPPD have anything planned for marketing this process of efficiency to the general public? I find very few people have ever heard of a home energy audit.
Again, we don't probably spend the advertising dollars that probably should be spent to it. Again, it depends on the radio stations and stuff that we buy ads on, may not get covered completely throughout the state. All this information is available at nppd.com and is available there. With everybody having access to the internet and web pages, we encourage people to check out our information there. We do campaigns on marketing occasionally. And again, like it may not be as widespread and as often as may need to be to get the word out there. But again, we are public power and we've got budgets and we try to stay pretty strict to those budgets. And it's just the nature of what we are sometimes. I'm sorry to hear that. I will pass the word along to see if we can't do some more advertising in that area. So, Nick, any other questions?
There are none so far.
Okay. Next slide, please. Benefits of driving electric. Okay, this is just going down the facts here. Driving electric can save 50 to 70% on fuel costs and maintenance costs too. And I didn't realize until I started looking at the electric vehicles, there's a lot less parts in them. And it just makes sense if you don't have as many parts as in a fossil fuel vehicle, the maintenance costs are going to be lower. And again, the big benefit is no tailpipe emissions, though a percentage of the electric generation now comes from some fossil fuel plants. Our mix in Nebraska is very emission friendly. With the Cooper Nuclear Station that puts out zero emissions, it's really a smaller issue in Nebraska than it is in a lot of other states. Plus, we are expanding. We have several wind farms that we buy power from. One we actually own, and we are moving towards solar farms, and I expect to see more and more of that as we move into the future. Again, that's coming from our board, and they try to judge what we can spend efficiently and what is the best way to move forward and not make bad investments as we move to the future. Technology in our area is changing so rapidly. It's really tough to make decisions of long range, especially of what our generation mix is going to look like in the future. There are things out there that started knocking our door, such as hydrogen, that we were actually looking at converting our fossil fuel plant, one of the generators in Sheldon, Nebraska, to hydrogen. That has since fallen through, but that could be a player in the somewhat near future. And electric vehicles is all a part of controlling emissions, and it's just going to be a bigger part as we get vehicles and chargers out in the area that will make it advantageous for people to own these. And I have not done the survey myself, but we have as a company, and electric vehicle owners have higher satisfaction levels with their cars compared to non-electric owners. You might hit the button one time to bring up. Yeah, and fewer trips to the gas station. There it is. Okay. We might go to the next slide. Home chargers. Again, you'll probably be hearing more about the home chargers and electric vehicles. We are hoping to partner with dealerships and help them sponsor a marketing program if they would like to have a day at their dealership where they're promoting electric vehicles. We will also be getting an e-Mustang that will be available for us to bring out to dealerships. We will have some co-advertising dollars, I believe, that we'll share with the dealerships to promote electric vehicles and our charging stations and such. Just to give you an idea of the cost, the charging station costs around $700. Home wiring about $200 to $1,000, depending on how much wiring changes has to be done to the panel and things like that. 120 volt charge for, and this is for the Chevy Bolt. It takes 50 hours to charge to a full charge on a Bolt. On a 120 volt circuit, on a 240 volt circuit, it takes 8 hours to charge. Could we get to the next slide, please? These are incentives for EV residential customers. We right now have a $4,500 electric vehicle incentive for a purchase with a charge point charger. It means you have to buy the charge point charger and the vehicle too. If you just want to buy the charger, the charge point charger, there's a $500 incentive for that. Just basically a rebate that you get back. If you buy it, you can fill out the application, which can be found at nppd.com. And we have a $200 to $400 pre-wiring incentive. You can pre-wire the home and not buy the charge yet and still qualify for that incentive as long as it's pre-wired for an electric vehicle. It's kind of to help our homeowners plan for their future. Some of the funds are from the Nebraska Environmental Trust, especially the purchase of the EV. And these are available now in 2021, so something you may want to take advantage of. Next slide, please. Okay, and this pretty much brings to the end of my presentation. Touched briefly on a few things. Again, I'll open it up for questions to see if I can answer anything. We'll just open it up.
All right. Give me a moment. I'm checking the chat room right now. All right. So one of the questions was from Marie. If you purchase an electric car, what is the cost to have the local power company install a charge port in a garage? And then she said, oh, the answer is in the next slide. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't actually get to install things for a customer because, again, we're public power. Some investor-owned utilities actually have services like that, but since we're public power, we can't compete with private individuals that are in business to provide that service. So it's a state statute.
Okay. And then Bob asked, is NPPD involved with anyone in the EV charging business to add charging stations, particularly the fast chargers, which require quite a large amount of energy?
Yeah, those are usually commercial chargers, and no, we're not involved directly. We do have commercial incentives that will help businesses if they want to pre-wire for electric chargers. There are commercial incentives as well. I don't have the slides for those up, but they are available, and all that information is available at nppp.com under the Save Money tag. Just got to drill into it a little bit. But we tend to do the rebate side since we can't compete with private industry.
I see.
We try to incent that to be done.
I found a lot of your information very helpful myself. I really appreciate it. You did an amazing job. I liked learning about the building envelope. I think that's where I have a lot of problems at home myself.
I probably could have talked a little bit more there. I'm sure there are some opportunities that I didn't come out to, but the whole thing is to make a good visualization yourself, and you can determine a lot of things that, yeah, maybe this does need improvement. You know, there's things like the window seals discoloring, and or the windows are condensing water on the inside in the wintertime, or you can feel a draft when you're standing by a window. That's usually a sign something's starting to fail. So,
Right. Like I know there's times a year where I always put the plastic over my windows to help save some.
And that is an energy saving tip. Again, it may not be the most easiest to do. I've had trouble putting those things up myself, but
Right. Janice said, this is a great topic, and hello. And I think it's Marie said, thanks for hosting. So you're welcome, Marie. That's what I got in the comments so far. I really liked learning about the billing history, and I think I'm going to have to get my own bill out and check out what I've got going on there myself, do a little research. So if anybody else has any questions, please stick them in the chat and I will go ahead and ask Steve. Otherwise, I think we'll probably, unless you have anything else you would like to add.
well, if they want to contact me, I'll give them my email address, and that's shwalke@nppd.com.
All right, and I went ahead and I'm going to put that in the chat.
Oh, great.
So
yeah, there, and they can get a hold of me that way and ask questions, further questions. It's a good way to get a hold of me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I learned so much, and I really appreciate you taking the time to put together that wonderful presentation. I really did enjoy it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
All right, and thank you guys for showing up today. I hope you have a great weekend and a happy new year, and good luck to saving money with good decisions on energy conservation. Have a good day, everybody.